This is the MG HS Hybrid Plus, a new petrol-electric plug-free SUV that might be one of the most appealing options in the market. The pricing is exceptional, the powertrain is pretty good, and it drives better than you might be expecting. I really like some of the interior bits as well, but there are some things that I need to tell you about it, and some great alternatives too. So if you haven't already, please subscribe and ring that bell, and let's check out this HS Hybrid Plus. The MG HS plays in one of the most hard-fought segments of the market. The mid-size SUV market is very, very competitive, but also with more and more petrol-electric hybrid models on offer from different brands, it's getting pretty fierce out there. But there are two different versions of the MG HS Hybrid Plus on offer in Australia. They both share the same powertrain, which I'll tell you about shortly, but let's talk about the two different grades and what's on offer here. So the entry-level one is called Excite. It starts at $40,990 drive away, and that is pretty assertive pricing. A little bit exciting, you might say. And it comes with plenty of standard spec and tech for the money, including 19-inch alloy wheels. There's full LED lighting with auto high beam lights as well. There's auto wipers too. You've got keyless entry and push button start. And on the inside, you've got a 12.3-inch touchscreen media system with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and a 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster. And the Excite grade also comes with cloth seat trim, which is nice enough, I would say, but some people might want a bit more wow factor on the inside. But you are still getting a power driver's seat. You've got air conditioning with rear air vents, and you also get 12-month complimentary iSmart access. So that's the smartphone app that you can connect up to the car with. And then there's this one here, which is the Essence. It costs $4,000 more, and you're getting a fair bit more for that money, including a panoramic glass sunroof. You've got an electric power tailgate. You've got front fog lights, heated power folding mirrors with memory settings, a wireless phone charger, a better sound system. You've also got power driver's lumbar adjustment, power passenger seat adjustment, heated front seats, dual zone climate control, a sunglasses holder, and fake leather interior trim, not real leather, at the $45K mark. But what do you think about those prices and the specs? Or would you just consider one of these alternatives? Because, wow, there are some great options in this mid-size hybrid SUV market. Now, I'm not going to be talking about plug-in hybrid SUVs in this alternative section. Look, if you do want more info on more PHEVs, there's a link in the description below, and it'll show you all the reviews I've done. I've done plenty on the plug-in hybrids that are available, but this is a plug-free option, and it appeals to a different type of customer for that reason. And there are some really, really good options out there. The first and best, it has been for a while, is the Toyota RAV4. And sure, it might be about to be replaced by a new generation version, but I do think that it still offers heaps and heaps of value for money, heaps of space and comfort, and great fuel efficiency as well. And it is the go-to guy when it comes to hybrid SUVs in this segment for good reason. And look, it might mean that you'll have to spend $55,000 or so to get an equivalent level of spec that you're getting in this $45,000 MG, but hey, what do you think about that? Now, there's a couple of other options I want to call out in this segment. The first one is the Kia Sportage. Now, it is a really nice looking SUV post-update. I think they've done a really good job with that. The interior trim is not too bad either, and it does have some really nice driving dynamics, and there is a number of different hybrid versions on offer in that lineup, so it could be a great choice as well. And if you are looking for lots of different options to pick from in a mid-size hybrid SUV, the Hyundai Tucson would be another one to check out, because it does have heaps and heaps of really appealing options in that lineup. And look, there's people out there that really don't like the exterior styling of it. I think it looks great, and I think it feels great on the inside too. And just like the Kia, it has a couple of annoying safety features, but hey, I still think that it does offer excellent efficiency and a great powertrain. It could be a great choice if you're looking for a hybrid SUV. But what would you do? Have your say in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Okay, you're not really going to be able to pick it from the outside in terms of differentiating the hybrid versions to the other ones, apart from something at the back, but I'll show you that in a sec. But I reckon that this is still a very sharp looking piece of SUV design, and the dimensions are pretty good too. It's not the biggest, not the smallest either, just over 4.6 meters long on a pretty lengthy wheelbase, which means good interior space, which I'll show you shortly. Now, ground clearance is 167 millimeters, so don't go thinking that it's going to be a monster off-roader. It is front wheel drive after all, but let's have a look at this side entry options here, because you do have just a button on the front doors, not on the back doors, and it can be a bit slow to react, I've found, but I do think that the design overall is pretty tidy, I have to say. Excuse all the bins, it's bin day today. But yeah, here's where you can see that it's the hybrid one, just that badge right there, Hybrid Plus. It's got some nice exterior design, I reckon. Now, let's have a look in this electric tailgate zone, and it does have a fair amount of space in there, more than 500 litres of cargo capacity, which is good for an SUV in this segment. And there's some good storage options on the side here. You've got a cargo cover, got a light here, another storage section there, but no shopping bag hooks, if that matters to you. Now, you've got a safety triangle there, and underneath the boot floor, you might be surprised, there's a space saver spare wheel, which is excellent for an SUV with electrification. You've got 12-volt charge terminals underneath there as well, and a jack there too. So plenty of really good inclusions in the boot of this SUV. Quite practical. Let's check out the interior. Okay, the interior of the MG HS Hybrid Plus, which is the Essence grade that we're sitting in, is pretty nice, I've got to say. There are some things that I don't love necessarily, including the fact that you've got these PVC covered seats. Yeah, so that's fake leather for those wondering. And it's okay, but it does feel a bit warm. So keep that in mind. If you're the sort of person who feels the heat a little bit more, you might not love the interior of this car because it does heat up very quickly. That could be in part due to the fact that it's got the big panoramic glass roof in this high grade, but it does, tend to feel warm faster than other cars. It's not a warm day out there, but it does feel certainly warmer in here than I was expecting. And I've noticed that over the time I've been driving this car, but let's have a look at some of the other stuff, right? So you do get the fake leather interior trim on the steering wheel too, and you've got some reasonably easy to learn controls once you know how they all work. You've got here a little screen toggle, so you can see up there that will jump through different things on the screen there. And there's also a couple of other controls here, volume and tuning for your stereo stuff, phone, and a favorite button. And on this side, you've got another favorite button, a cruise control button, voice control, and your adaptive cruise management stuff there too. You've got wipers and blinkers on that side and lights on that side. And then you've got this 12.3-inch screen, which does have a fair bit going on there. You can change the view of it if you want to be different backgrounds. I've got it on the sat-nav mode at the moment. It doesn't connect up to the CarPlay map, but hey, I still think that it's a nice piece of design. And then you've got this 12.3-inch screen as well, which I think is pretty good, but sort of lacks a few buttons in my opinion. So you do have a bank of buttons. If you can see them, they are very, very reflective. There we go. That's a better angle. But yeah, that means that in some instances, you might find that it's hard to actually see them. You do have a home button there. You've got fan on or off, and you've also got demisters, but you don't have like a recirc button. You don't have a temperature dial, and you don't have fan buttons there. All of that is done on the screen. So we have to go home and then go into the climate settings to make adjustments, or you could talk to the car if you want to. I never use the voice control systems because they don't typically work that well. But yeah, look, you've got climate settings, dual zone for this high grade one. There's front heated seats as well if you need them to be even hotter than they are. And you have to go on this screen to put on your recirc and adjust the fan speed and so forth, unless you just leave it on auto. Some people do. I'm different to some people. Now up here, you've also got some fog light controls, and the menus here, as you'll see, you've got a home screen. You can jump into your sat nav if you want to. It can be a bit slow to react to touch sometimes, this screen. I've noticed that a couple of times, especially when trying to go into Apple CarPlay. And then you've also got here a panel of regular buttons that are pretty easy to learn, I've got to say. You can go in here and have a look at your 360 camera if you want to. So you can jump around the car, see what's going on in space. But yeah, it's kind of an interesting setup and a very good camera, I have to say. And there's more settings beyond that in the car menu here. So, and some of the things in here you might want to get to know. There is a custom mode for your MG Pilot settings. So you should be able to, in theory, pull down on here and hit MG Pilot Custom, and that will confirm that some of the things that you might not like will turn off. But I think that generally the driving stuff, not too bad. We'll get to that later on in a bit more detail, obviously. Now, let's just quickly finish up on this car interior screen, because I think that here you've got a couple of other menus. You've got a settings menu over here, which is separate to the other settings for the car. And yeah, you'll get used to all this pretty easily, I would suspect. I've gotten used to it reasonably easily, but I think that really the lack of physical buttons might be annoying for some. Now, you've got a decent sized glove box in there. You've got good sized bottle holders in the doors. They're not lined though. Down here, you've got a pair of cup holders with a reasonable amount of space there. There's some USB-C ports and a 12 volt, a good looking shifter with a park button, and behind it, you've got a hill descent control button, auto hold, so that'll stop the car from creeping forward in traffic if you don't want it to, and an electronic parking brake. There's a wireless phone charger in this grade. You don't get that in the base grade. You probably should. And there's a little extra storage down there. Up here, you'll notice you don't get an auto dimming rear vision mirror. It's just a flicky mirror, which is probably a little bit behind the times. And I would expect that it should have an auto dimming mirror. Sunglasses holder in this grade as well. That big glass roof, as I said, if you want to see it, there it is. It's big and it's glassy. And you can actually open this front portion of it if you do want to. It does add some niceness to the cabin experience if you're the sort of fan of sunroofs that likes those things. Anyway, here you've got illuminated vanity mirrors, and that is nice to see. The sun visors don't extend out. So yeah, look, there's a few things that are good in this interior, no doubt about that. Some things that could be improved in terms of the tech, but I think you'll get used to it pretty easily. Let's jump into the back seat and see what the space is like, hey? The space is great, I have to say. There is so much legroom in here compared to some of the rivals in this class. Look at that, I'm 6 foot tall and I've got inches and inches of legroom, heaps and heaps of footroom, and the headroom is not bad either, although if you're really tall, you might find it to be a little bit tight. The glass roof does add some ambience, no doubt about that. You've got overhead grab handles and lights up there too with little hooks. And when it comes to the other amenities, you've got good sized bottle holders, soft padded sections on the doors, nice orange stitching flows into the back here, and this section is soft too. So if you're a top armrester, I think you'll like that. You've got decent map pockets on both seat backs and no hard finishing. So, I mean, that might cop a hiding as this one has from my kiddo. And you've also got some directional air vents, a little transmission tunnel intrusion. It won't impact too much, but yeah, I think that this back seat is pretty accommodating for families because, yeah, my 4-year-old's been in here pretty comfortably the whole time. Isofix points in the window seats, 3 top tethers as well, a flip-down armrest with some cup holders, and yes, of course, you do have the directional air vents, as I said, but like I did say earlier, it does feel a little bit hotter in this car than some others, and my kiddo noticed that too. Rightio, let's talk about the powertrain in the Hybrid Plus models of the MG HS. It's a new one and it has the most powerful electric motor for a hybrid SUV in this segment. Now the electric motor outputs are on your screen, 146 kilowatts, 340 Newton meters. In its own right, that is punchy for an SUV of this size. But then you've also got a 1.5 litre 4-cylinder turbo petrol engine, and it combines with that and a charging motor with a 2-speed hybrid transmission and front-wheel drive for a total maximum output of 165 kilowatts and 340 Newton meters. That is a good amount of grunt for an SUV like this, and it does have the capability to run fully electric. It's got multi-mode regen braking, and it has a 1.83 kilowatt hour battery pack as part of this whole setup. Now that battery is water cooled as well, so that in theory should mean better performance in extreme weather situations. And don't go thinking that just because it's got a really high-tech powertrain that it can't tow, because it can. The towing capacity is 750 kilos unbraked and 1500 kilos braked, so competitive for this class of vehicle. Now let's go drive it, and I'll show you what this powertrain and the rest of the drive experience is like. Alrighty, what is the HS Hybrid Plus like to drive? It's very good. It's very, very good. I have to say, there's not much to complain about in terms of this drive experience. Well, there's a couple of things, but let's get through the most important stuff first. So the powertrain, it's excellent. It will do the EV thing. It'll do a combination of electric and petrol if you need it, and it will do regen braking if you want it. So there's a number of different considerations here in terms of the way that this hybrid system works. It works very well, people. I do find that this is a smooth operator. It's got a very, very good amount of grunt if you need it. You can put your foot down and it does zoom along. You do get that electric assistance, and you also get a pretty good turbo petrol engine in terms of the responsiveness. So look, as a hybrid, I think it's one of the best in this segment in terms of smoothness, refinement, the way that it switches between the different systems and modes. It's really, really smooth and clever, and I've had no issues with it. My whole time driving it, I've found it to be really quite likable in a lot of ways. And I do think that if you are thinking, well, I better go with a Toyota because, you know, they know hybrid tech better than anyone else, I can understand that. But this is really, really excellent, this powertrain. I've been very impressed. And like, I know that if you've seen some other reviews of MG hybrid models, you might have sort of seen that, well, there have been some issues with some of the smaller hybrid powertrains. This is a different powertrain, so it doesn't have those issues. I've, you know, pounded it up a hill and it's been absolutely fine. Haven't had any issues with it falling short on power, and this hybrid system just offers the amount of grunt that I think will do the job for most people's needs. I guess the biggest consideration here is that you can't get it with all-wheel drive, and that might be a real consideration if you live rural or regional. It could be a problem, I would say. But as it is, it does a very good job. It manages to get the power down to the ground very well as well, and you barely even notice the transmission of things. It's just really excellent, this powertrain, and quiet too, which is a real nice bonus. You can hear the engine occasionally, but it's maybe even more evident when you've been in EV mode at lower speeds and the engine kicks on. That's basically the only time you notice it. Now, the rest of the drive experience is good too. So it's got pretty responsive and predictable steering. I think it's, you know, not the most fun in the segment, but certainly one of the most easy to get to terms with in terms of the general steering responsiveness. It's easy to park, and the ride comfort, well, it is on the firm side. It does have a bit of a firm edge to it, especially when you hit an abrupt bump. So if you're going into a driveway, it can sort of wobble the car around a little bit, but over lumps and bumps in the road surface, it's pretty good. You can hear occasionally if a wheel hits a deep bump, it will sort of clang a little bit, but I don't think that it's worse than, say, a Volkswagen or anything like that. So that's probably a nice hat tip to the MG team. They've done a good job with the driving dynamics here. I like the slightly firmer ride personally, so I think that it's to my taste. It might be to your taste as well. It's not squishy or wobbly like some of the others in the segment, so that could be good too. But yeah, it's a great drive experience. So generally, the drive experience, very impressive, but there's one thing I want to call out about the safety systems. Because it's a new generation vehicle, of course, all the safety stuff has to default back on to appease the ANCAP gods, and it does, and it will bing and bong at you if you leave it on for your driver monitoring, for your speed sign recognition, and the emergency lane keep will push you around a little bit as well. It's actually pretty measured, the lane keeping stuff, but the other stuff might annoy you. There is the MG Pilot custom button, which you can configure to suit what you want, and then all you have to do is go back in and tap it. But the fact that you can set it up to be, in theory, a very quick tap of the screen, or three, to get it to be what you want, is better than it otherwise would be. So that's great. Now, speaking of great, let's talk about fuel consumption numbers. All right, the official combined cycle fuel consumption figure for the Hybrid Plus models in the HS range is 5.2 litres per 100 Ks. Now that is a bit higher than some of the others out there, a bit lower than some of the others as well. So higher than a RAV4, lower than a Tucson, for instance. But I do think that the real world consumption is decent in this vehicle. On test, I've seen 5.9 litres per 100 Ks, and that's across a couple of 100 Ks of driving, urban, highway, freeway, stop-start, the same sort of stuff you might do. I think that is perfectly acceptable. But apparently, if you do a lot more urban driving, if you're calling on the regen braking, you will in theory, be able to get even better than that. And I did a bit more highway driving than stop-start commuting. So look, I think the consumption numbers are decent and the real world numbers are good too. And when it comes to the other fuel considerations, unfortunately, you do need to put 95 RON premium unleaded in this one. And it does have a decent sized fuel tank as well, but thankfully, at least it's efficient, so you won't be back at the servo every week unless you do a lot of Ks. The MG HS achieved the maximum 5-star ANCAP safety rating in 2024 for petrol models. Now, is this a petrol model? I would say it is, so I guess it will apply to this one, but we'll have to wait for clarification of that. And it does have the same level of standard spec and tech as the petrol models, things like autonomous emergency braking with pedestrian and cyclist and junction detection. There's lane keeping assistance and emergency lane keeping, which you might want to switch off. There's also driver monitoring, which you might want to switch off, and a speed sign recognition system, which you might want to switch off as well, because they do chime a little bit. They're not as annoying as some other cars, but they are evident, let's say. And if you can set up that convenient button to turn things off that you don't like, hey, that might be a game changer for you. There's plenty of other great spec in terms of the safety equipment here. You've got front and rear cross traffic alert, there's blind spot monitoring, and you're getting a surround view camera system and front and rear parking sensors if you choose the high spec. Otherwise, you're getting rear sensors and a rear camera on that base grade, which is still good, I think. And look, when it comes to the airbag count, there's 7. There's dual front side, a front center airbag to prevent head clashes, and curtain coverage for all the window seats as well. Yeah, not bad on the safety front, I'd say. MG offers a conditional 10-year, 250,000 kilometer warranty. Previously, it was unconditional, but the brand has changed things up. So you do have to service with the MG dealership network if you want the 10-year, $250,000 warranty. And that might be fine for you, but we'll talk about the service costs in a sec. Otherwise, if you don't service with the MG network, you're still getting a 7-year warranty, which is great. And the battery warranty for the hybrid models is class competitive too. Now, service intervals, you see them on your screen now. I think that's pretty good for an SUV like this. And as I said, there is a cap price servicing plan available. You see the details up there right now. And look, I think that the average cost over that cap price plan is okay, but it does sort of mean that you are subsidizing your own warranty cover. So keep that in mind. If you do plan to service with the network, it might be good because, well, you're also going to get roadside assistance included for up to 10 years as well. Otherwise, you'll get 7 years because it'll revert back to the standard warranty. So yeah, there's some fine print to read, but I do think that this still offers pretty promising ownership. And if you do service with the network, well, you might get even better resale value as well. I think if you're looking for a value-focused hybrid SUV, you really should be checking out the MG HS Hybrid Plus because it does offer quite a lot to like. The price is really impressive, it drives nicely, and well, that potential warranty does make it seem like a very, very good buy. But what would you do? Is the fuel consumption good enough? Have you seen the comments? I'd love to hear from you. Would you go for a plug-in hybrid instead? Thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and I'll see you when I see you.